The boundary of decency was not merely tested this time, it was completely obliterated. What began as a simmering rivalry at the Australian Open has detonated into the season's most explosive disciplinary nightmare. The entire global tennis community has been left gasping for air in the wake of the news. American power player Alysia Parks now finds herself buried under an indefinite ban and a heavy financial penalty following accusations of a transgression so severe that it crossed a moral threshold so toxic and personal. Even the sport's most thick-skinned veterans have labeled the act absolutely pardonless. Reports describe verbal assaults that turned private family heartbreak into a weapon, twisting a mother's sickness into psychological ammunition. It revealed the grotesque underbelly of professional athletics, that dark place where the spirit of rivalry dies and pure malice takes over. Yet, the narrative takes an even sharper, more cinematic turn at this precise moment. As Parks confronts the wreckage of her career and officials scramble to manage the damage, Alex has flown back to the Philippines for a moment of destiny. The occasion is the inaugural WTA 125 Philippine Women's Open, a landmark event that has sent the entire archipelago into a state of euphoria. The scenes are electric tickets, vanished instantly. History is being written, and fresh talent is rising. With Eala standing at the eye of the storm, shouldering a nation's hopes, while silently battling the trauma inflicted in Melbourne. This tale weaves together the threads of dignity and disgrace, balancing ruin against resurgence, proving how one competitor's vile low point can fuel another's ascent. It serves as a stark reminder of the lines that remain sacred in sport and the fallout when a player dares to step over them. Prepare yourselves, because the chapters ahead are poised to be visceral, heart-wrenching, and seared into memory. The saga begins with the detonation of that administrative grenade, which sent tremors rattling through the tour's hierarchy. Official bulletins confirmed the verdict only hours ago, and the draconian nature of the penalty screamed that this was no ordinary infraction. Parks, an American athlete famous for her cannonball serve and occasionally combustible attitude, faces a dual punishment. She has been ordered to pay $2,000, but far more devastating is the decree of an indefinite suspension from the sport. Let that sink in. Indefinite. This is not a stern talking to, a mere reprimand, or a brief hiatus to cool down. Indefinite implies her professional existence is paused until further notice, effectively suspended in a void. With her ranking points locked and her calendar erased, her standing is in ruins. Seasoned observers know that monetary penalties are usually routine business. Destructing a racket in a fit of rage might cost a player a few $100s. Screaming profanities near a hot mic brings a bill, and stalling between serves, invites, point deductions from the chair umpire. Such infractions are standard fare, occurring by the dozen as the tour rolls on. However, an open-ended exile is a phenomenon almost unheard of in the modern game. It is the nuclear option, utilized only when a transgression threatens the very soul of the game or violates ethical codes so deeply that immediate removal is the only solution. One must ask, what specific act could possibly trigger such a catastrophic institutional response? The roots of this disaster are buried in that high-voltage opening round clash at the Australian Open just a few days prior. Witnesses recall the match vividly. Although the scoreboard declared a victory for Parks, spectators sensed a disturbance beneath the surface. The air inside the stadium was heavy, charged with something far more sinister than simple athletic rivalry. It was a suffocating hostility, a dark, uncomfortable energy that felt alien to the usual intensity of the court. The visual cues were undeniable. The icy glares and rigid postures suggested a conflict much deeper than the game itself. It appeared as though the two women were waging a war completely detached from forehands, backhands, or match points. According to privileged information from those near the epicenter, individuals demanding anonymity, given the explosive nature of the events, the confrontation spilled over the boundaries of the sport. During the fever pitch of the match, in the quiet moments between points, Parks allegedly launched verbal barbs that transcended standard psychological gamesmanship. These were not the typical jabs regarding skill level or mental fortitude. They were calculated, venomous strikes aimed at the most sacred part of Alycia's life, her family. Corroborated reports now indicate that the vitriol was specifically targeted at Alex's mother, For anyone who has tracked the young star's ascent, the significance of this relationship is undeniable. Mrs. Eala is the cornerstone of the clan, the architect of Alex's rise, and the silent warrior who toiled alongside her husband to manifest this improbable dream. Yet, the context that renders this alleged conduct truly monstrous is a heartbreaking secret. The matriarch is currently fighting a severe medical battle. This struggle was never broadcast for public pity or media headlines. It was a private burden. It is a quiet, agonizing battle behind closed doors that has grounded her, leaving an empty seat in the player's box, denying her daughter the maternal embrace she so fiercely craves during the most high-pressure breaking points of her professional life. For a rival to reportedly twist that heartbreak into a weapon, utilizing a mother's sickness-induced absence as cheap mental warfare, transforming a family's private nightmare into a spectacle of shame, is simply beyond the pale. Insiders revealed that the venomous words inflicted instant, shattering trauma, not merely upon Alex, who was forced to stand her ground and digest such toxicity while fighting to stay in the game, but upon her entire kinship circle. Try to visualize a mother tethered to a recovery bed, physically powerless to shield her offspring, only to discover her own medical fragility was being hurled as a slur on a global broadcast. The level of heartbreak is absolute. The public recoil was immediate and utterly savage. This scandal refused to remain locked inside the tennis stadium. It spilled over, exploding across mainstream sports networks and turning social media feeds into a blazing inferno. Twitter transformed into a digital riot, with hashtags demanding justice and respect trending worldwide mere hours after the final point. While Filipino supporters were predictably furious in defense of their icon, the anger was hardly localized. The entire tennis ecosystem, legends of the game, current stars, broadcasters, writers who respect the unwritten rules of combat united in a chorus of condemnation against the alleged behavior. The roar of disapproval was so instant and synchronized that it forced the hand of tennis officials to move at lightning speed. Under normal circumstances, inquiries into player behavior are slow, weeks-long, bureaucratic crawls. Usually, evidence is weighed, statements are gathered, and legal teams drag the timeline into oblivion. However, in this specific instance, the Federation realized that hesitation would only deepen the wound. They needed to broadcast an unmistakable signal regarding the ethical red lines and the spirit of fair play that underpins the sport. This decision wasn't about fragility or political correctness. It was about etching a line in the sand, declaring that vile conduct has no place on the court, regardless of the stakes. With an indefinite ban now in effect, Parks finds her career suspended in a terrifying void. Her ranking is frozen in amber, preventing any upward mobility or point accumulation. The financial tap has been turned off, with future tournament earnings completely out of reach. Corporate partners are undoubtedly scrutinizing their contracts, debating if they can afford the toxicity attached to her name. Perhaps most damning is the mountain she must climb to ever regain a shred of trust within the locker room. The tour is a tight-knit traveling village where everyone knows everyone. Character is currency, and at this juncture, the reputation of Alysia Parks has been reduced to rubble. As the dust settles, the world waits for a signal from the Parks camp. Will there be contrition? Will she fight the ban? Will she argue that her words were twisted or lost in translation? The current lack of a response is thunderous, sending a message all on its own. For Eala, the rebuttal is simpler and carries far more weight. True vindication isn't found in tweets or lawsuits. It is found on the scoreboard. And she is ready to serve that justice cold, right here on her home soil. Let us pivot from that ugly shadow to the radiant spectacle currently unfolding in the Philippines. The prodigal daughter has returned. Following the Melbourne heartbreak and the subsequent media storm, Alex landed in Manila to an embrace that surely felt like medicine for the soul. The narrative timing is flawless, as the archipelago plays host to a truly monumental occasion. The WTA 125 Philippine Women's Open has officially arrived. The local fan base is absolutely electric with anticipation. For generations, this has been the dream. The nation has seen minor league events and regional skirmishes come and go. They have hosted team cups that bring fleeting moments of glory. But never before has the Women's Tennis Association planted its flag for a sanctioned tour event on these islands until today. We are watching history being penned in the present tense, with Alex cast as the undeniable protagonist. Even the Rizal Memorial Tennis Center has been completely reinvented to meet the grandeur of this moment. Scouts courtside are raving about the immaculate azure surfaces, engineered to perfectly replicate the rapid bounce and velocity of the Australian Open. To handle the inevitable crush of humanity, the stands have been aggressively expanded, stretching capacity to its absolute limit. High-definition floodlights now bathe the arena in broadcast-ready brilliance, ensuring every frame looks crisp for the global audience tuning in via satellite and stream. The tournament directors saw this coming. They understood that once Alex was confirmed, the legions of Filipino supporters would descend in droves. And they did not disappoint, crafting a spectacle that matches the hype, charging the air with a voltage you can practically taste. The heat is oppressive, a thick, tropical blanket of humidity that clings to the skin and adds weight to every step. The noise is deafening, fueled by a roaring gallery that brings the legendary intensity and volume unique to Pinoy sports culture. Unapologetically distinct, this is far removed from the sterile, hushed etiquette of a standard corporate open. It is tennis reimagined through a local lens, raw, emotional, and overflowing with national pride, meaning the world to the young star at its center. Entering as the second seed, she stands tall as the highest-ranked homegrown talent in the entire bracket. Her face dominates the billboards, lining EDSA, the capital's chaotic artery, sparking a ticket frenzy that shattered all projections. She is the beacon of hope for a rising generation, and now the path to glory has been officially laid out. And folks, the bracket is sizzling. With the round of 32 announced last Saturday, Eala finds herself with a massive target painted on her back. Her campaign begins against Russia's Alyna Sabalenka. And make no mistake, this is anything but a warm-up drill. Allow me to explain precisely why this first hurdle is fraught with peril. Sabalenka is a relentless baseline operator, a grinder who builds her game on a foundation of maddening consistency and iron patience. Having climbed to world number 142 back in September 2024, she has proven she belongs in this elite company. She possesses the veteran savvy required to grind out victories at the WTA 125 level. With 6 ITF trophies in her cabinet, she has demonstrated the clutch gene needed to finish the job when the pressure mounts. As a former finalist at a 125 event, she has shown she can string together wins against hardened pros. Her resume includes main draw appearances at the prestigious WTA 500 tournaments, proving she has walked onto the biggest stages without blinking at the bright lights. But the real danger here lies in the subtext. These two warriors share a history. They locked horns years ago on the Spanish clay during a W15 ITF Futures event in 2020, where Sabalenka dismantled a teenage Alex. She carries that victory like a weapon, fully aware that she has the blueprint to take Alex down. That mental edge, the certainty that you have solved this puzzle before, is gold currency in a sport where confidence often outweighs pure skill. Yet, and this cannot be overstated, that encounter happened in 2020. That was a junior version of Alex, still finding her footing. The version stepping onto the court in 2026 is a different beast entirely. She is now a decorated Grand Slam junior victor who has battled in the most hallowed arenas. She has stood toe-to-toe with the top 50, pushing them to the brink, and sharpened a lefty forehand that dictates terms when she finds her rhythm. The steel in her spine has hardened. She is battle-tested and far more lethal than before. Sabalenka's strategy will likely be by the book, as it remains her only viable route to an upset. Expect her to loop heavy, deep shots, dragging out the points and daring Alex to blink first. She will attempt to neutralize the firepower, returning every ball with monotonous regularity until frustration forces an unforced error. She knows Alex arrives exhausted from an emotional run in Australia and carries the crushing weight of a nation's expectations. Her goal will be to suck the life out of the Rizal Memorial, muddying the game to make it gritty and awkward right out of the gate. But Alex holds the trump cards that should tip the scales. If she brings her A-game, that southpaw service motion naturally carves open difficult angles for a right-handed returner. Data consistently suggests that lefties enjoy a statistical edge in the pro game, largely because the ball creates a spin trajectory that competitors rarely encounter. Her forehand velocity has surged this season, generating the kind of terminal pace that ends rallies the moment she steps inside the baseline. Most critically, she rides a wave of thousands of screaming compatriots, a wall of sound unlike anything Karashi has ever faced. This clash occupies the prime evening slot because the promoters know exactly what is at stake. The eyes of the entire archipelago will be fixed on this moment. From crowded living rooms to noisy bars and digital feeds, millions of Filipinos are ready to witness history in real time. The weight on her shoulders is crushing, yet that very burden might just ignite the fire she needs. Should she manage to weave the heartbreak from the Parks debacle with the roaring adoration of the Manila crowd, she possesses the raw firepower to sweep Karashili right out of the arena. On paper, this ends quickly in 2 sets. But the sport has a nasty habit of shredding predictions. Anticipate a spectacle, brace for the theatrics, and prepare for instances where Alex must plunge into her own soul to recall the very reason she picked up a racket. Although Alex commands the marquee lights, the Philippine Women's Open is illuminating a far profounder truth: the sheer richness of local skill. The days of a solitary hero carrying the flag have vanished. A fresh wave of talent has risen, inspired by Alex's path, committing their lives to a game once ignored by the nation, and now they stand ready to dazzle on their own turf. The spotlight demands to be trained squarely on Stephanie Aludo. For those unfamiliar with the moniker, it won't remain obscure for long. The 17-year-old phenomenon from Quezon del Sur, juggling textbooks with elite competition, has just etched her signature into the annals of the sport. Aludo stands alone as the pioneer, securing the inaugural WTA victory by a local on native ground. Pause to appreciate the magnitude. She is the premier Filipina to claim an official tour-level win within the archipelago's borders. This is the stuff of legend, a milestone that will be recounted with reverence 50 years down the line. During Saturday's qualifiers, she locked horns with her compatriot Angelique Alcala in a clash fraught with sentimental complexity. Battling a sister-in-arms knowing only one survives is always brutal, yet Aludo displayed a chilling lack of sentiment. The final tally was a massacre, 6-1, 6-0, revealing a competitor who was beautifully, terrifyingly efficient. Observers by the net spoke of forehands that screamed off her strings from the very first point, with zero hesitation. Delivering a donut in the second frame during a debut performance, screams of glacial nerves and unshakable self-belief. With that triumph, Aludo advances to confront Japan's Sakura Hosogi in the subsequent stage of the qualifying bracket. While Hosogi boasts a thicker portfolio of tour battles, Aludo rides a tidal wave of adrenaline and the adoration of a gallery already smitten with her bravery. Victory here propels her into the main event, standing shoulder to shoulder with Eala. Just like that, the host nation would boast a pair of genuine threats within the same bracket. One must also examine the other local gladiators who have punched their tickets, for these women are leaping straight into shark-infested waters. Elizabeth Abarquez squares off against Mai Hontama, a pairing that presents a formidable mountain to climb. Hontama is a seasoned professional, having graced the grand stage of the Australian Open as recently as 2024. Her game is characterized by laser-flat strikes and high-risk aggression that leaves little room for mistakes. Abarquez requires a pristine serving day and a strategy designed to shatter the Japanese player's cadence. It is the archetypal David versus Goliath story that crowds adore, particularly with a local hero involved, while elsewhere, Kaya Amina prepares for Russia's Tatiana Prozorova. Amina, a jewel of the university circuit, faces a 22-year-old veteran with 7 titles and a peak ranking that touched the top 140. Prozorova is anything but an easy out. She carries years of professional grit, meaning the local challenger must produce the performance of a lifetime. Yet, home soil has a way of bending the laws of chance. If she feeds off the roar of the stands and plays without inhibition, miracles are on the table. The clash between Tenny Mides and Thailand's Mananchaya Sawanka offers a tantalizing Southeast Asian showdown. Medes confronts a Thai star in peak condition, fresh from a finals appearance at a prestigious event in Mumbai. Sawanka is intimately familiar with the region's atmosphere, thriving in the suffocating heat and humidity. Expect a war defined by velocity and grit. While Mides enters as the dark horse, her spirit is too stubborn to break easily. Furthermore, in the trenches of the qualifiers, Lorraine Gullihan is fighting tooth and nail for her place. Each of these athletes stands for a cause far greater than personal glory. They embody a beacon of hope for thousands of children in the stands, eyes wide, daring to dream that they might be next.